Hey, this is Dan from Fisher Jeep Adventures, and today we are working on the Tacoma, and we are going to do an oil change on our 1997 Toyota Tacoma. So we're going to be going through the steps to change your oil in your first gen Tacoma. We're also going to do our air filter and our PCV valve while we're there. So we have a new gasket and a new valve. So we'll be using 5W30. This is a synthetic blend. This motor has got 330,000 miles on it and is running strong. So the oil filter is a factory Toyota oil filter, a Wix air filter, and then Napa parts as far as the PCV valve is concerned. So I'll leave a link in the description below for all of the things that we use in case you want to change your oil in your first gen Tacoma. Is this something you're interested in? Please stick around for the video. All right, so in this video, we're gonna go through the tools and items that you need to be able to change your oil. We're gonna go through the steps of how to change your oil, how to change your oil filter, what to do with the oil once you're done. Go over the quick process of changing the air filter, which is super simple on these trucks, and then change out the PCV valve. Just to keep your emissions running the way that it should. So for the tools that you need, something to catch your oiled oil in. You're going to need a filter wrench of some kind. Mine is just the one that kind of expands. A 14mm socket, which is going to take your drain plug out. And that's really it. Some gloves to keep your hands clean and some paper towels. Like I said, we're going to be using 5W30 synthetic blend oil for this motor. It is a high mileage engine factory oil filter. So I believe that the factory oil filters are the way to go, especially with Toyotas, and so that's what we're using. So our first step is going to be getting underneath the truck, loosening the oil pan bolt and letting the oil drain out. Now, the oil pan bolt on this truck is typically underneath the skid plates. Our skid plates are off because we put that new bumper on, and that's in the last video. If you want to check that out, I'll leave that in the description below. So we left it open to be able to access it because we know we're going to have to change it. The oil filter you can either get from the driver's side wheel well or from underneath the vehicle, and we'll go over that too. All right, so to get ready, put some gloves on just to protect your hands. These are just some gloves I bought at Lowe's, and you can get them anywhere. You can order them off Amazon. So these are just the ones that they had that would fit my hands. And so underneath here, if you have to take your skid plate off, it's just 3 bolts across the front and then 2 bolts underneath. And you can drop that skid plate right down. So like I said, ours isn't on here. Now for the Tacomas, we have the 3.4 liter V6. So it takes 5.5 quarts with the filter change. So we're gonna go ahead and get to the drain plug and then drain the oil out. All right, so here's that cross member, the front cross member. And then you can see the oil pan right here. And this is the 14mm nut that you got, or bolt that you gotta take off. So like I said, with your gloves on, take a 14mm wrench or a socket like we have, put your oil catchment, whatever that might be, and basically you're just going to spin it off. Just let it drain out, and we'll get the filter next. Now I always like to go ahead and loosen the oil filter cap, just to make sure that everything drains like it's supposed to. So like I said, you can get to the oil filter through here. So there's the oil filter right there. You can also access it through here. So it's really whatever is most convenient for you. I'm going to try and just see if it's loose enough to screw it off by hand, and sure enough, the person who changed oil on this thing the last time, which wasn't me, didn't put it on there super tight. So sometimes you get lucky and they actually listen to what you say when you put this on, and you can just spin it off. Let the oil drain out, spin it off. And then I like the pans that are open. You can kind of set the filter on. So the only thing we're going to do with that filter, now these filters sit up and down, so you can't pre-fill them, But what we will do is clean off that gasket surface, and then we'll put the new filter on, and I'll show you how I do that. So I just reach in there, take a paper towel, and just wipe the surface off. So you can see that oil filter surface right there. So we're just gonna keep cleaning it just to make sure there's no dirt. Most of these older engines have crap all over the place. So we just wanna get that nice and clean. Make sure you wipe on the inside of where that filter screws down, because sometimes when you unscrew it, you can get stuff on the inside. So we just want to make sure it's super clean. All right, so the Toyota filters come with a little plastic seal on them, which is really nice. And you just want to pull that off. You'll notice that there is an O-ring gasket right here. Now this does have a little bit of oil on it, but what I always like to do is take some of the old oil, wipe the edge of that gasket. The reason I use old oil is because it has less of a chance of this binding, the gasket binding on the oil surface or on the mating surface for the motor, versus new oil, which sometimes will. So just put it on there, get started, screw it down all the way, and once it contacts the surface, you just need to give it like a 1/4 to a 1/3 twist, and that's all. It's just tight as it needs to be. So we're going to clean off the bottom of that. We've got our plug is all clean, and then we're just going to put that back in. Take our 14mm socket and just tighten it up. Doesn't have to go crazy. And that's that. All right, so sometimes funnels don't always work right, so I like to have like a spray bottle that can just fit right into the opening, because funnels sometimes can be wonky, so this seems to work well for me. So we're just gonna take the cap off that we loosened, set it to the side, and go ahead and place this bottle top, and then we'll just pour the oil right in. And try not make a mess. So this is a 5-quart bottle. So we have a 6-quart, and we'll just use half of it, run the engine, and then check the oil level. So we're gonna keep this container. We're gonna pour the old waste oil in here, and then take it up to the local auto parts store to recycle it. Like I said, we bought a single quart, and we're gonna just pour half of it in. And these quarts have markers on it to kind of let you know how much you're putting in, and we're just going to go down to about that much. All right, it's about half, so we'll run it and check it, and then if whatever's left, I keep it in the truck in case I ever need to top it off. Again, this motor has got 330,000 miles on it, so it does burn a little bit of oil. So while we're letting that drain, we'll go straight into the air filter. So the air filter on this truck is right up front. You don't need any special tools. You have 2 clips, and then the door opens up and the filter pulls right out. So we're clean on the inside, but you can see we're dirty on the outside. And so we'll go ahead and replace that. I always like to look into the box just to make sure there are no leaves or anything else down in there. And if there is, I'll give it a quick vacuum. And this one's nice and clean. So we'll take our Wix filter 46109. It's made for this engine. And you want this side to go toward the truck cab, and it just slides right down in there and then pushes right in. And then all you got to do is close it, put the clips back on, and you're done. Now the last thing that we're going to tackle today is the PCV valve, which sits right down there. And we'll go ahead and pull that out. It's just basically grab it and pull it, and then we'll pull the gasket out with a little pick and put the new one in. All right, sometimes this thing can be stubborn to get out. And so I just take a flathead screwdriver, and we're going to replace the gasket anyway, and just stick it right underneath that lip and push out and wiggle, and it comes right out. So let's take a look at the old one. And so the valve in it's still making noise, but it is super dirty. And this is what the clean one looks like. So we're going to go ahead and pop that gasket out and put the new one in, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, so I used a pick to kind of pull it out, and this has probably never been changed because it was hard and brittle. So what I ended up doing was kind of using the pick to break this apart and then kind of pull it out that way. I kept a vacuum around it. I didn't videotape it because the vacuum was so loud, but I kept a vacuum around it to make sure that any pieces broke off didn't go into the valve cover. So this is the new gasket, nice and supple. And so this has a ridge on it that fits right down in there. We're just going to use some oil to lubricate it so it pops right in. So just take some oil from what you just took out of your engine and just wrap it around, and we're just going to push this right down in. And it just pops right in. Nice thing about the new stuff is it just goes right in. We're going to do the same thing for the PCV valve. Is we're just going to put some oil on it. So just some oil around it just to slide it in place. And it's a tight fit, and it's supposed to be because this has got vacuum line attached to it. So I removed this vacuum line just so I could get my hand in there. So make sure you put that back on. And then the vacuum line for the PCV valve is right there. And just make sure you slide it back on. And now we're done. All right, so we ran the engine, let it come down to idle, warm up a little bit, turned it off, and we're gonna check the oil. So the dipstick is located right here on the front of the engine. And we're going to go ahead and wipe it off first to make sure we get a good reading. And you can see there are two dots, a low and then a high, and you want it right at the high or just a little bit around the bottom. And we are sitting right there. So perfect. So 5.5 quarts did its job. Okay, so that was changing the oil filter, the air filter, and the PCV valve on our 1997 Tacoma. So this is the first gen series. So those first gen Tacoma years run from 1995 to 2004. That includes the 4Runner and anything that has this V6 engine. So super easy. Hope you guys got something from the video. If you're trying to change oil for the first time in these trucks, I hope this helped you out. And thanks for watching. This is Dan, Fisher Jeep Adventures, and we'll see you next time.